talk about pricing. It's just a plain and simple fact that no company producing anything will continue to do it without any vision of profitability for an extended period of time. This seems to be the case with vaccine makers as well. But it also continues to be a fact that it would not be correct to profiteer during the world's largest disaster and when your country is going through a disaster. These are the two sides of the debate between which Serum Institute of India and Bharat Biotech find themselves amidst. Both companies have announced their prices over the last few days for the third phase of vaccination. Now, just to recap very quickly, from the 1st of May, a third phase of vaccination opens out, under which everyone who is above the age of 18 in India can now get a vaccine. Now, how this is supposed to work is that 50% of what both Bharat Biotech and Serum Institute of India manufacture will be sold to the central government at 150 rupees a dose, which it was being done so far as well. Out of this 50% capacity, the central government will allocate to various states depending on set parameters. The remaining 50% can be purchased by state governments as well as private entities, which could include large corporate houses, private hospitals, or any other large private organizations. This is the constituent, or this is the market for which these two companies have now put out their prices in the public domain as they were asked to do. And this has led to a situation where you have three prices for the same product, which in this case is the COVID-19 vaccine. So in the case of Serum Institute of India, for example, Covishield will be sold to the central government at 150 rupees a dose, to state governments at 400 rupees a dose, and in the private market at 600 rupees a dose. In the case of Bharat Biotech's Covaxin, the prices they have declared is 600 rupees for state governments and 1200 rupees per dose for the private market. This has led to a huge hue and cry asking why differential pricing and why shouldn't vaccines be free for all. Now, to understand the various aspects of this conversation, which goes beyond black and white, honestly, I have with me an excellent panel of speakers today. I have with me Dr. V. Ravi, former head neurovirology at NIMHANS. He is also on the global advisory team for the Sputnik. I'm speaking today with K. Sujata Rao, former Health Secretary, and Dr. J. Jayalal, the National President of the Indian Medical Association, also joins us on the show. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us this evening to hopefully shed some light on this very important subject. Dr. Ravi, let me start by getting your take on pricing. Would it be fair, you say, to have three prices for the same product depending on who the buyer is?
I think it is fair because the vaccine production cost, remember the price that the Covishield and Covaxin was given to Government of India was not even break-even price. These are cell culture vaccines. You compare with other cell culture vaccines, forget COVID for a moment. All the other cell culture vaccines, be it rabies, be it influenza, be it any of the other viral vaccines, you require a cell culture system. Cell culture is expensive, and then you have to grow it, and the manufacturing cost plus the distribution cost, the storage, the packing, all this would cost minimum $10 to $15. I think because of the large bulk and in public health interest, these companies have given it at a lower price to the central government. Even now, the prices of these two vaccines is half of what it is for the mRNA vaccines. So I think it is reasonable, and you cannot expect companies to scale up production and make mass amounts of vaccines and give it at the same price. I'll stop here. Over.
Okay. Sujata Rao, will you come in on this point? The point Dr. Ravi makes, we are expecting companies to maximize their capacity at a massive pace. In fact, the gripe all of this time was that why has Serum Institute of India's vaccine production not gone up multiple times? Why would they do that, and how can they do that if they are making barely any profits and if they are selling at 150 rupees a dose? I'm going to come in a while to what the end consumer should pay and who should subsidize that. But let me start with what the vaccine manufacturers are charging right now. Your take on this?
My take is only based on what we have been exposed to under the immunization program, where the government of India went with the market power of the whole country's requirements as one single order and called for tenders and fixed the rates. UNICEF was, say, for example, for polio was the main procurement agent for all country or other countries too. We were able to beat down prices and really get very competitive pricing. Remember one thing, Tamana, no one gives charity and no one does anything for a loss, much less the pharma companies. And in this context, I have two statements. One, Mr. Poonawalla himself is on record on the TV to say that at 150 rupees, I do make a profit, but I want super profit. That's number one. Number two is the same AstraZeneca, which is selling the vaccine in European markets for rupees 161 and is selling the same vaccine to Gavi at 210 rupees. And here they want to sell it for $8, 600 rupees for the private sector, and 400 rupees for the state governments. So I think this differential pricing, the way they have put it, and Covaxin, look, I'm not a technical person. I don't care what processes you have. But purely as an economist, I would say there's something called scale. And when you are asking for a quote for, say, 1 billion doses, you don't pay 600 rupees and 400 rupees and 800. The prices have to crash. And I can give you infinite number of examples of vaccines that were costing a lot in the market. When Government of India entered into the market, the prices just fell. So my argument here is that if you fragment the markets, yes, this will be what you will be paying. But if Government of India were to say that one market, the market power, 1 billion doses we want, or 1.5 billion doses, the prices will have to fall. In any case, this is, I believe, not the time for making profits. And the last point I would like to make, please think of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. At that time, the multinational companies also gave the same argument that Dr. Ravi gave. It's very expensive to make these very complex drugs. And they were offering it at $12,000 per person. The same drug, Cipla was able to make it and bring it down to $300. Subsequently, it came down to $140 without any compromise on the quality or efficacy. So, you know, this is pure economics. It doesn't go with just only the input prices. There is a certain cost given to manufacture a drug or a vaccine, but there is something called economy of scale. There is something called market power, and we need to leverage that and see that we get a much more competitive rate. Even agreeing, which I don't, but even agreeing to Dr. Ravi's argument, I'm willing to say maximum the price could be maybe 200 rupees. Even that I think is high. But 200 rupees a dose, 225 rupees a dose. But where is 600 and 1200 coming from? The same vaccine. I mean, this is just making money when there is so much of misery around.
Yeah, no, you know, I mean, the important point about this debate, and which is why I'm keen to have a nuanced debate, because it's not really in black and white, where you have the very typical idea, sometimes, you know, very dramatic of a corporate trying to grab money at a time when there is a pandemic raging. The fact also is that Serum Institute of India stuck its neck out and sat and produced a lot of vaccinations without knowing what would happen, how the pandemic would go, where it would go. But Dr. Jailal, I want you to come in on this, because the IMA pushed for universal vaccination above the age of 18. And while you are a medical expert, but I would like to have your view on if you have this differential pricing, ultimately it's the consumer who's going to pay all of these differences one way or the other. If state governments also pick up at higher rates, it goes from tax money and what the exchequer has paid. Do you think there is a case for differential pricing, A? And finally, do you think any consumer, any Indian should pay for the vaccine, or those who can afford to should?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I believe this is absolute black and white cheating on the misery of the people. See, vaccination is not, no one is going to come forward and take vaccination at their own will. This is now the need of the hour. This is the need of the country. And only option in front of us to overcome the corona pandemic is the vaccination. It is the responsibility of the government of India to ensure that every citizen of this country is able to take the vaccine. You say now the government announced that we are going to give the vaccine only for above age 45. 18 to 45, no free vaccination. That means in the government sector, they are not going to give the vaccination to anyone from 18 to 45. If you see, look into the population, 18 to 45 is the labor class people. Apart from the white collar people, I say there is quite a lot of people from 18 to 45 are the mini laborers or the people who work in the vendors, people work as shopkeepers. Please remember, those are the people who are the most vulnerable people to get the infection, and equally they are the most vulnerable people who can make the infection spread fastly. So it is a priority concern for Government of India at this moment to see to that the people at the 18 to 45 are vaccinated more. When those people are subjected to get vaccination by spending about nearly 1,000 rupees, and it is horrible mistake on the part of the government. The company which is able to sell out the drug with much less cost to other countries, export the drugs to Sri Lanka for a lesser cost, want to reap on the benefit of their extreme misery on the public by getting 600 rupees. This cannot be tolerated and is absolutely a nonsense which the company is tolerating. How can a government of India allow a company to have the super profit like this? When they are bringing the Ayushman Bharat, they say because the bulk is there, we are reducing the rate for the hospital, whether it is a private hospital, whether it is a government hospital, the rate is going to be the same. Why do you want to divide the public? When they go to the private, they have to sell out 1,500, 1,200, and they come to the private government hospital, will not be able to charge. See, if the objective of the universal vaccination has to be achieved,
Dr. Jailal, just to put some facts on record and just have some clarity. For one, from what the health minister has said in his blog and what PIB put out today, they are saying that even the vaccines that the central government procures at 150 will be given to the state government and will be available free of cost. A lot of states have already said that they will be providing the vaccine free of cost. So the last man and woman, and maybe in the future child, will be getting the vaccine free of cost. The state governments will be picking up the tab. It is right now at least not likely that people will be asked to pay if they cannot pay. So when you see it in that light, would you say there is a justification for a company to make enough of revenue to be able to expand their capacities? Otherwise, how will they expand their capacities 8 times, 10 times? We've discussed here how the manufacturing capacity is not a patch on the requirement. Why will they do it for free? Who will pay for it?
Government has already come forward. They are going to give in dollars, in money in a large number as a seed money. This seed money is given. See, when the government given a budget of 35,000 crore was given in our budget for vaccination, for what purpose? If the vaccination has to be given for the entire people, that is an objective. When you are giving the budget allocation of a 35,000 fund, and that you can subside to the factory if you want. If the central government can argue with the factory and get it done for 150 rupees, why do you want to put the blame on the state? Now the state has to pay extra amount. For a center, you will charge for 150 and the state has to pay 600 rupees. India is a federal structure. India is constitutionally, it is a federal system. And the company cannot sell for the 2 ways of prices for two kinds of people.
So there are two aspects here. Let me get Dr. Ravi in. Let me get Dr. Ravi in. He has listened to everyone's argument. Let me get Dr. Ravi in. So, Dr. Ravi, I want your response on two aspects. One is, why should state governments pay more than central governments? If it's, a price which is being subsidized for governments, should it be different between center and state? That's the point number one. Number two, why such a huge difference between Covaxin and Covishield in the private market? It's double. Covaxin, which is today much lesser, 5 to 7% of the market, wants to charge 1200 rupees a dose versus Covishield 600 rupees a dose. Is there any justification for that?
I am not an economist like Dr. Sujata Rao, and I am not the president of a medical association like Dr. Jalal. I completely respect their views. I just want to make 2 points. I am co-chairing the COVID Mission Suraksha Committee meeting of DBT, which is giving funds for vaccine development in this country. Let me make it very clear to Dr. Jalal, government is not subsidizing any production cost. They have to raise their cost. Covaxin is more expensive because the technology is so. Number two, you are not equally dividing the doses between the two companies. As it is, the capacity of Serum Institute of India is far, far higher than that of Bharat Biotech. Let us be very clear. Serum Institute is one of the biggest manufacturers of vaccine anywhere in the world. It supplies measles vaccines to 186 countries. The largest vaccine manufacturer. They have a huge facility and they can also expand facility much faster than anybody else. Because of the volumes they are confident of marketing, they have priced it lower. Covaxin is a company that is only now seeing this kind of expansion, so they have put their price higher. As regards the question of why should it be different for state, why should it be different for the private market, that is something that the government has to decide. Maybe the government can say for government supplies, this is the price. But then you have to tell a manufacturer, I am buying this many doses. Dr. Sujata Rao was very, very right. When government buys polio vaccine, I've been in virology for 40 years, entire supply is government's. Can such market be assured? No, it cannot be. When there are many players, market will not. Unless more players come, then the prices will come down. So if the state and the center prices have to be the same, I'm not against it, but let the government take a call. But the private market, it will always be more because there are people willing to buy it. Otherwise, the whole question of equity will go for a sixer. Once you open it, and if you don't price it sufficiently higher, then the poor and the underprivileged will not get it. Let me make it, underline it very clear. I'm not an economist like Dr. Sujata Rao, but I don't think she can counter this argument. Over.
Let me go across to Ms. Rao. Ms. Rao, and let me also put it this way. If people who can pay are there, and there are people who can pay, clearly there are, shouldn't they pay? And wouldn't that in turn help ensure that those who can't pay get the vaccines?
Amanna, please tell me, since you are a very senior journalist, what is the population in India which can afford to pay 2,500, and that's only the purchase price of the vaccine? Then they will carry the carrying cost also. So you may end up being 2,000 per dose, so 4,000 rupees per person. How many people can afford to pay 4,000 rupees for a vaccine? And if you're a family of 5, to pay 20,000 rupees. Can you, with your salary, you are in the upper middle class? So what are we talking about? We're talking about people where, today in India, we spend barely 600 rupees per capita on health. 1100, but if you take an average, that's an all India. But if you take Bihar or something, there's 600 rupees. Where is the so-called very rich people who can afford this kind of price? Now, the second question that comes in is that even as we speak today, under the immunization program, again, I go back, where because the model is working, and I don't see why the government is getting away from that model, which has worked very well for the last 70 years, is that there is already the private sector, you can get a range of vaccines, right from polio, all the child vaccines you can get, hepatitis B you can get, MMR you can get, flu shots you can get, but at a price. So people like you and me who can afford it and don't want to wait long queues in the hospital, in government hospitals, we go there anyway. So no one is bothered about the little tiny market which is going to the private sector. We're talking about the masses. We're talking about the 95 or 98% of India's population. That's what we're talking about. Now, coming to your earlier question, which I wanted an opportunity to clarify to you, you said why,
Yes.
what about the risk? There are
Yes.
companies that take so much of a risk and they need to make profits to expand. Let me tell you one thing about Serum itself. Serum got funding from WHO under the GAP program, which I think Dr. Ravi knows very well about. That's for strengthening your capacity build up. Then they got about $300 million out of the 600 million that they will get from Gavi, of Gates Foundation to Gavi, almost about 6 months ago to expand capacity. Not a extra vaccine has been produced since then. Where is that money? And now the government of India has given $3,000, 3,000 crores. I'm not against it. I think our companies should be assisted to expand. This is an extraordinary situation. And if they need that money, by all means, give it. But we're picking up the capital cost, we're giving them this assistance. There has to be some reduction in their prices. They cannot then treat it as a market thing. And secondly, the Serum Institute never did any own development. Oxford University and AstraZeneca, the parent company, did all the work, all the phase 3 trials, phase 2 trials. The entire development of the vaccine was done there, and they only paid a royalty and got the money. What is the risk element that they've taken? Market is being assured by the country. So, I really don't understand how anyone can justify. The same thing with Covaxin. ICMR has invested. Now, I don't know what the sharing thing is, but Covaxin would not have been able to come up with this vaccine today if ICMR and the government of India had not so aggressively supported them. So, all these are very expensive processes, and they've been given huge, extensive relaxations from the drug controller. Even today, I don't think Serum has submitted its bridging trial data. The Covaxin has yet to give their phase 3 trial data, and I'm not worried about the safety. That's proven.
Ms. Rao,
But the processes which cost money have
yeah.
been
No,
that. What the worry is.
no, but was that a favor? That's this is where we need to come to some sort of a consensus. Was the government of India doing a quote unquote favor to these companies? Were these companies doing a favor by shoring up and investing in something? Remember, last year we didn't know which way COVID would go, how long it would last. There was a point also when people were talking about herd immunity and who will take vaccines, and vaccine hesitation was happening. Today it looks like a different picture. Perhaps 6, 7, 8 months down the line, it might be a slightly different picture with a lot more players in. Dr. Ravi, where do you come in on the question of super profits? Now, I think there is a lot of confusion because of lack of transparency. Would you agree to this point that there needs to be more transparency? If Mr. Adar Poonawalla is quoted on one channel saying, I'm making profit at 150, but I want to make super profit, what does he mean by super profit? Do you think it would help their cause if these companies came forward and explained exactly how they want to price this and what they intend to do with that money?
I would entirely agree on that point, that they should come forward and give a clear breakdown of how it costs 600 or 150 or 200. That they should come, and that's something the government should enforce. It's not in the hands of public.
Okay. Another point, Dr. Ravi, is again, I come back to the differential pricing between, and you answer this in bit, but I would like to underscore it again. How can Covaxin be 1200 rupees a dose and Covishield be 600 rupees a dose? And then you will possibly have another vaccine which is maybe 700-800 rupees a dose. Shouldn't there be some uniformity without people actually understanding what they are going in for? What is the leverage that Covaxin will have to really command 1200 rupees a dose?
Covaxin is a whole virus killed vaccine. Its production cost is higher, number one. Number two, the available science with killed vaccines tells that it will protect against all variants, which may not be, I'm underscoring, may not be the case with subunit vaccines or viral vector vaccines. So I think these are the 2 points that probably Bharat Biotech has in mind. And I again tell you that as it is right now, they are having 1/4 of the capacity that Serum Institute has. And consequently, they cannot probably match the price of Serum Institute. That is what I believe is happening. Over.
Okay, Sujata Rao wants to come in, and then I will go to Dr. Jayalal for a closing comment. Yes, Ms. Rao.
No, I was just going to say that I support what Dr. Ravi said, that, it's for the government to really come up with what is a fair price. And based on that, they all code. And I think that methodology exists in our government system. You know that we have an NPPA. They are the ones who did the unit cost pricing and put an MRP on all essential drugs, put an MRP on stents. If you remember last year, government capped the prices of stents and so on. So they can do very well, do that methodology and work out what exactly is the basic price and then bargain from. So I don't see there are no methodologies available to come to what I consider a fair price.
Okay. I will have to end here, but last word from Dr. Jayalal. Dr. Jayalal, if a system so emerges, which it seems it will, that eventually whoever needs it will have a free vaccine, even 18 to 45, because it will be subsidized either by the central or state government. In that case, do you think there is a case for those who want to and can to pay? By this, I do not mean individuals, but if large corporates want to purchase vaccines and then vaccinate, their employees and their families at their cost, should they then be able to negotiate prices with these companies?
Yeah, that is preferential equity can be there, but that should be only for 10 to 15%, not the 50%. If you make the 50% is in an open market, then it is going to be result in a lot of black marketing and unequal distribution, and that is resulting in unequitable distribution. So if the government really wants to keep 5%, 10% at the higher end, where they are all going to get it through the insurance sectors, then it is fine. But I appeal to the government and appeal to all the people. This is a very, very important tool which we are having to overcome the disease. Let us not think that money is the criteria. Let us think that mission is the criteria and see that everyone is getting it. If it is needed, the government should see to that they are getting it free. And that is going to, in turn, give us a lot of dividend by overcoming the corona. Our economy is going to revamp it. There's no doubt on that. So let us aim for the universal free vaccination at this moment.
All right. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on this discussion. We hope there is more clarity at the end of it on the point of what vaccine makers need as impetus. Super profits perhaps is not the right term to use or to aim for at this time, but they need an incentive to keep going, to manufacture the kind of doses we need, and perhaps clarity, fixed contracts with a visible timeline and transparency on their part as to what kind of profits they're hoping to earn and how they're hoping to invest it would really help things along.